Good evening, guys. Welcome to podcast number 3 of I Don't Believe in Ghosts. But for those guys who don't know who we are, quick introduction. I'm Steve Watson. I'm host this evening. I've been doing paranormal for many, many years. Ghost hunting. Founded Ghost Northeast 15 years ago and wrote several books, which are all on our website, ghostnortheast.co.uk, with various bookshops. There's a little plug for me there. Today with us, I've got two of the guys that we'll have a chat with, and we'll introduce ourselves.
I am Peter Wolford. I've been investigating with Steve for coming up to 15 years myself now, so I'm as old as he is.
Hi, I'm Scott Caffrey, and I've been investigating for 6.5 years now.
So guys, nice introduction. I hope you enjoyed the two that we've put out so far. I am concentrating on Bowick and Jedburgh Jail. Tonight, we're going to concentrate on the Chillingham Castle. So we'll talk about our experience at Chillingham Castle a bit later on. So just a brief rundown what we've been up to. We're currently in Bedlam. It's about 1:30 in the morning. We're going this as we do the team test in a new location in the middle of Bedlam Front Street. Been a very good night up to now. Yes. How's it gone?
It's been pretty terrifying at times, actually, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Not to give too much away too early, but some really interesting hits early on with people feeling things that they've never felt in any other locations before, people who have had lots of experience ghost hunting in the past. So that's always interesting, isn't it, when something new happens to someone who's never felt it before. That always starts things off well and it gets people excited. So it'll be interesting when we have people come along to see if they experience any of those same things as well. It's always nice to put those pieces together.
I think as well, you get a chance to play with the equipment, try experiments that we'll try on the night when we've got guests there, but gives us a little bit of go. We'll pass this microphone over there. So what you thought about tonight?
Yeah, it was interesting to see people experiencing things for the first time and being able to sit back and watch and observe a bit more rather than keep an eye on guests. We're just watching the team and we don't really care about each other as much as we do when we've got guests to look after. We can sort of let our hair down and yeah, it was a strange old call out that we did, and it was really strange seeing the interaction that we had with a group of people who were in a line with each other. Again, not going to give too much away. But,
You can't give away what you want. So
we had Andy and Emma facing each other across a circle, and Danielle was sitting in line between them. And those three people were getting the energy from the call out, and it was weird. Not really seen anything like that before. So yeah, looking forward to coming back with more people and getting that increase of energy and seeing what happens when we've got more of a buzz, where we've got more people in the space, and seeing if similar things happen or whether it is that line where those three people will stand. So
Yeah, so
lots to look forward to.
one of the experiments that we've done in the past on our ghost hunts is using a mask, isn't it, as a type of regression. And the mask is supposed to be like a plain white sheet, essentially, so that anything can show itself on that mask. And we hope that the spirits that are interacting manipulate that. And we've had some fantastic results with that in the past. But what was interesting tonight is that we were getting similar sorts of things happen to what we get on that experiment, but without the mask there at all. So we were thinking that things were actually showing themselves on members of the team, which actually is very rare for us, isn't it? So that sparked some excitement really quite early on to see some of those figures coming through on people who have never had that experience. And I think for some of them quite overwhelming, actually.
So if I play devil's advocate, because this first part of the podcast, I do have to say thank you to Ghost Northeast, which is our company, but they have sponsored these new mics. to hopefully give you better sound quality. Watching on YouTube, so we had to keep swapping them over, but that's why we're doing it to test out see if it'll work. So we've got some provinces that do that. They're responsible for the microphones, so hopefully this is going to give you better sound. But going back to, so we've been doing experiments, so people who are listening to us out there, what did you say? Did you say, right, is it just making up? What we just do is a little rubbish and you just make it up, it's all in your head. So what you've experienced tonight, they're not saying they're lying, they're making it up. What they're saying is, what you experienced tonight is psychological and you're making it up in your head.
I would.
It's a question.
You want to take this one, Pete?
Yeah. I mean, speaking personally, yes, I could have made it up in my head, but that does not explain why I saw what I saw in other people. And that was corroborated by other people in the circle. Particular experience that I had was where I was sitting, I was facing the door that we tried to black out, and the sleeve of the jacket was hanging down against a pane of glass, so it formed a V. On either side of the V was blank glass and it had light coming through it, and there was something moving behind the glass. I said what I saw, and Emma from the group corroborated because she was seeing the same thing. I don't know how that could be psychological when two people are witnessing the same thing. And similarly, from where you were standing, you were describing what was happening to Danielle, as somebody who was standing in front of her was describing it at the same time. And it was simultaneous. There was no, oh yes, I saw that too. So in that sense, I completely take on board that people could say it's psychological.
I mean, it's interject, yeah, I was seeing things like you were saying, etc. I think more than anything, what I would say to people out there, we've done this before on numerous occasions. Should we decide, oh, ghost horses?
Naturally.
We'll go back.
I don't know.
Shit. Shit. Go back. What is it, there's people, it's for them to decide. I can't prove, we none of us can prove what we've seen tonight with our eyes. All we can see is, well, that's what we've seen. And at the end of the day, I think it's anybody who goes out and does this goes to, there's no point standing and arguing with people. Because if they don't believe it, they don't believe it. And so how much you argue with them or try and prove your point, you can't. Because I can't take my eyes out my head and put them in somebody else's head so they can see what I see.
It's my experience and what I've felt over the years, and what I've seen, and what I've heard, and what I've smelt. That kind of thing. You know, I can't prove it. I can't prove any of what I've felt, other than I can relate the story to you. Whether you believe that is up to you.
I suppose it just goes back to what we say every time for you to decide. I will tell you a modern day miracle. My belief in the hairline. Where's my hair gone over all these years? That's about a modern day miracle. Jeez, I spotted.
When your head was back.
Oh no, that's never gonna happen. That's Christ. So thank you guys. Nice little chat there. I'm gonna run a video of Chillingham Castle. We're gonna come back and talk about Chillingham Castle. Chillingham Castle, Northumberland. What can we say about Chillingham Castle? Everybody knows it, everybody's heard of it, and it's a must visit for ghost hunters alike. Featuring on several television programmes, including Most Haunted, the world's scariest places. The castle's captured the imagination of many people. So, what about the castle? History of the castle starts life quite normal. Back in the late 12th century, it was originally built as a monastery. It didn't become a castle in the middle of the 1300s. Castle became home to the Grey family in 1246. It would stay within that family for over 800 years. The walls were all fortified. They knew it had to be a strategic location during the English and Scottish border wars. And over the coming 800 years, skirmishes would be attacked many times by the Scottish, by the English, by the border reivers. The fighting and the deaths around the area, around the castle, would be central to the castle's history, to the story of the castle itself. King Edward I stayed there in the early days, in the 1200s, and actually made his base during the First Scottish War of Independence. During this time, it's believed the king employed an executioner to deal with the Scottish prisoners. As folklore says, he employed a man called John Sage. Sage would torture and kill men, women, and child in and around the castle. He would hang them from trees. He would torture them just to warn other people off. It's said that Sage was responsible for over 10,000 deaths at Chillingham Castle and would torture up to 50 people per day. And then Sage himself would meet his death at the castle when he murdered his wife. The problem was, his wife was the daughter of the head of one of the Scottish clans, and his punishment was part of the clan's deal made with the crown. And Sage was then sentenced to hang at the castle in the place where he'd watched so many others hang. Sage isn't mentioned in the history books. And a man with this many deaths and with so much blood on his hands, you would have thought he would have been mentioned in the history books. However, is he somebody who folklore has changed? Did he kill hundreds of people? Did he kill tens of people? And over the years, that number has grown into 10,000 men, 10,000 deaths. There's another theory that it wasn't actually John Sage. It was a different executioner whose name's unknown. And it's said that his ghost, the true executioner, is the one that tortures us ghost hunting souls on nights when we visit Chillingham Castle. The true life executioner is enraged that John Sage gets the credit for so much of his work. Whoever it is that walks the corridors of Chillingham Castle certainly makes a noise or two. Slamming doors, footsteps, voices, often heard across the castle. There's so many parts of the castle, and that would have upset many people who stayed there. There's the oubliette, just off the Spanish Witch's Room. It's a very, very, very small little corridor, bored in the rock walls, that leads to a cell for maybe 2 or 3 people, comfortably. Back in the day, there would probably be 10 or 12 forced in there, and below was the pit where they were thrown to their death. You hope that you cracked your neck or broke your back on the way down and died at the bottom. Because if you were still alive at the bottom, you would have just got eaten by the local wildlife. The rats, the dogs, the wolves. It's in this oubliette now, if you sit there quietly and listen, you can still hear the cries, the moans, and the sighs of the prisoners who once sat there. I have to say, my own experience was I was sat there in the dark when footsteps were heard coming towards the door. There was a knock on the door. I asked them to open it. The door didn't open. There was nobody there to open it. Sitting in the darkness of Chillingham Castle in a 500, 600-year-old jail cell, and there was a knock on the door, which I heard quite clearly. Knock on wood, just like this one. and nobody being there, I did make a sharp exit. We know that many tortures took place at Chillingham Castle. If you go into the old wine cellar under the Grand Hall, there's an executioner's chamber now with several original bits of kit that they used to torture people. Stretching racks, barrels with nails in them, chairs with upturned nails in them, barbaric, horrific execution torture tools. There's an Iron Maiden. Nobody knows which being used. There's also a chopping block. It said that this was the chopping block and the axe where many a head was removed by the Scots and the English during the war. It said if you put your head on that block and take a photograph, sometimes the ghost of the executioner appears behind you on the photograph. Have I got the bottle to do it? Am I brave enough? We'll just have to wait and see. There's the blue boy in one of the rooms, which is the ghost of a child that was bricked up in the wall. There's a ghost of a cavalier, which I personally think I've seen myself. The white lady from outdoors is seen indoors. She's seen quite often in the main hall, in the grand hall. Whichever part of Chillingham Castle you stay in, whichever part of Chillingham Castle you go to, there's a story attached. And with a building that's nearly 1,000 years old, there'll always be a part of history that links you to that story. Chillingham is one of the locations that I'm most often asked about. Is it as scary? Is it as haunted? Is it promotion or hype? I've got to say my visits to Chillingham always split into two. I have a really active night where I've seen some scary, heard some scary, and felt some very scary things. Some of them will stay with us for the rest of my life. I've also visited Chillingham. It's been the quietest night. The only thing I caught was cold. So to take it or leave it, it's a very busy night or a very quiet night. But I will say, if you do get an active night at Chillingham Castle, you probably won't forget it. And I always say it's probably a must-have on a ghost hunter's list. Just to visit just once even, to experience the darkness that sometimes is found in them corridors. And the reason the night's ideal, because Chillingham Castle we get asked about a lot. And everybody talks about it. It's been under the most scariest place in the world, the most haunted place in the world, the scariest castle in the UK. It's been on television programmes, radio, it's on YouTube. And I always asked, is it hype or is it haunted? And I've got three of it together tonight because it's a good little spread. I like Chillingham Castle as a location. It's got indifferent. Can't make up his mind yet. Pete's not a fan. And that sums up Chillingham Castle to a T. I always say with Chillingham, I've had the best, I'm going to sound like Charles Dickens or something in that book. I've had the best night, I've had the worst night. As soon as you are at Chillingham, I've had some cracking nights. Some of the best things I've ever seen. The best. I've had a stone thrown at my head that a group of 6 or 7 cannot explain. I see the thing, as I say, I see the cavalier up on the gallery. Next to us was a guy from Australia who I'd never met in my entire life. And he went, mate, can you see? I went, don't tell us what you see. So go outside with one of the guys and tell him what you see. And then I'll do the same. So I don't know what he said, he doesn't know what I've said. But we'll put it together, we'll both describe exactly the same thing. Exactly. To the colours, to the designs. So we both actually see exactly the same thing. Now, what with the King Henry's room, there ain't no way in and out. There's one way in and out. There wasn't somebody who sneaked in. There was nobody else in that building. So how do two guys that are from the opposite ends of the world who have never met each other in their entire life both sit and describe seeing exactly the same thing in the same place at the same time? So that's probably one of my really big memories of Chillingham. A stone being thrown over the top of my head. Still don't know to this day. If somebody was messing around or being dangerous, because if the stone had hit somebody, it would have hurt them badly, which I discount that from. And the third Chillingham story that always keeps us thinking going back, and you were there, Scott, that night. We put a guest down in the torture chamber, which is the wine cellar, and then is the main hall. We had the door open, and we basically said, if you want to take him away, shut the door. The door then shut. We videoed it. So I'm like, whoa, I've got this on video. This is superb. The video didn't take the video. You can hear our voices, but there is no film. I'm not good enough to know how to do that with a camcorder. At the end of the day, I haven't got that sort of expertise. We had the sound, but no video. I can't explain that to this day. So that's my view on Chillingham. One of my favourites. It really is. I had some great nights. I will say though, going all the way through, I've had some really quiet nights. Whether you think I've caught as cold. So to me, it's either a fantastic night or a really quiet night. And there doesn't seem to be any in between. So let's talk about this in between.
Thank you. So the first time that I went to Chillingham, and for anybody who's watching or listening at home, I would imagine you're probably in a similar situation. You know the hype around Chillingham Castle. However many people have done it on TV, being up this part of the country, word travels fast, doesn't it? That if you're going to go on a ghost hunt, people will say, oh, are you doing Chillingham Castle? So the first time that I went as a guest was actually with Ghost Northeast, and I was expecting the world. I really was. I was expecting things to be popping out of the walls, saying hello, people being possessed, you name it, the works. That's what I was expecting. And I think that's where I went wrong with it, is I was expecting too much. And over the years, you build up this expectation. But actually, on the flip side of that, now that I've been doing this a little bit longer and I've got to experience it as a team leader as well, there is a lot of activity that goes on there. You've just got to know the right way to behave in certain parts of the building, I think. So, we know this in lots of different places that we go, and that's part of the reason why we do nights like tonight, is to prepare ourselves for what's the right way to react here or to interact with whoever you find. But for me, the majority of the really powerful activity I've had is in the King's Chamber. So we've had guests reporting, for those who haven't been before, there's a big suit of armour at the back of that room. And we've had people reporting that they can see it move, and we've heard it being moved as well, which can't physically be done because it's roped off. You're not allowed to cross that rope. So that's always been quite interesting to me. I've also experienced the throwing of rocks in there, and that is quite terrifying because, as you think, if somebody is putting that on or if somebody is doing that, then that's a really dangerous thing to be doing. And I'm not saying for 1 minute that I think anybody was doing that, but to make myself sleep better at night time, I tell myself that they were, otherwise I wouldn't be getting any sleep. But some really, really interesting activity in there. Other parts of the building that I find really interesting, the chapel. You would expect that to be somewhere that you could go and sit and feel really peaceful. For me, there's always an apprehension to it. It's quite an intimidating place to be. I feel you go in and it's high ceilinged. There's a lot of stonework in there, big statues, and some of the activity that we've been in there is interesting. We've had people standing at the lectern, sort of, looking as if they're reading things. We've had cat balls going in there. We've had a mixture of scientific and psychic equipment reacting in there as well. And I often think, well, would you expect that from a chapel, a place of peace where you would be getting that interaction? I really don't know. And I'll be interested if anybody's got any other experiences in those places as well. I would really like to hear about them, because I do feel it's just somewhere that we've scratched the surface of. For such a building that's so vast and has such a history to it, and millions of artifacts in there, there must be so many ghosts we're yet to encounter. What have we not met yet? I would be really interested to see if anybody's got any stories that they could share. But Pete, I think you're quite different to us, aren't you, in your experience to it? So I'll let you say your piece.
If you got any stories you want to share them with Scott, just send them to our email, and that's it, ghostpodcast@hotmail.com, and I'll make sure Scott gets the stories for you. Sorry about that. But, so we're going to go for the love it, indifferent, or leave it to you next.
Yeah, I'm just really wary about you spinning on the chair.
Oh, don't worry about my chair.
Yeah, you're coming my way.
The good thing is, the poddies are listening to it, they can't see. So if I fall off, they'll just hear us go, ah!
I'll get everybody going to YouTube, won't it?
So yeah, I mean, my experience at Chillingham was my first experience as a team leader.
Yeah.
And when I went in, I literally went in cold, and I was so anxious about taking the team around the building that I didn't know the layout of. I didn't have time to think about what potential activity I was going to get. I remember driving up the drive and turning up to look at the castle, and I saw just like that shit. Went in, and that night, I've got to say, was really active. I was standing in the circle, and I was standing next to Steve, and I had a black shadow came, and if you know the black shadow, it doesn't leave the paper. The pen is constantly in contact. When we looked at it, drawn a perfect circle with a perfect 5-pointed star, and then the pen had left that and written John Sage underneath, which is a well-known.
And he doesn't like this location.
That was my first night there.
Yeah.
Every night I've been there since has been as dead as a doornail. And like Steve said, we know it's all or nothing. It's full on, or it's really, really quiet. And in my experience, I've only had that experience once, and I don't know whether I don't like it because I haven't had that experience again. And every time I go, I'm hoping for it.
Can that be controversial?
Yeah.
Have you not had the experience before? Were you scared? Did it scare you?
No.
No?
I was excited
Yeah.
with the activity we were getting. I've been terrified in places,
Yeah.
but not at Chillingham.
No, I don't know. It was just a
Watch out for the Ned Path Castle episode, and then I'll tell you about how terrified it was. But
that's episode 27, 2034.
Series 9.
Series 9. Stephen's in a wheelchair in a coffin.
But yeah, I mean, it's like I said,
We're talking to Peter from heaven on a Ouija board.
it is all or nothing, and in my experience, I've had the all, and now I get the nothing, and I don't seem to get the activity. And that's fine. As a team leader, you go in and you hope for activity, and it kind of proves that if all the groups get something,
It's all the thing is really, it goes to show you with all this, when you do this, I always say it's the same as fishing. Some people like some rivers, some people like sea fishing. You know what I mean? You go to one spot one day and you catch a bucket full of fish. You go to the same spot next day, you don't catch a thing. And this goes to show, that's why I wanted to get us through together for this episode, because I think it really does show Chillingham is, it's so split when you talk to people. It's so loved. But then there's that side where people are like, oh, I'm disappointed. And it's like, most haunted, most time, I'm going to say, very haunted. So that's Chillingham. So guys, that's our thoughts on Chillingham Castle. Let us know your thoughts. As I say, send the stories or any information to ghostpodcast@hotmail.com. I'm going to think about it. Next week, I've got a community question. So he's ready for it. Right, guys, welcome back. So on the community questions, I think we've got time for one quick one. So I've picked them before we came. these guys don't know what I'm going to ask. So they're sitting there waiting. So I'm going to hand this over to Peter and him with the question and see what we'll get straight away from. So, Peter, the question is, tell me the most scared you've been on a ghost hunt. Where was it?
Redpath Castle. In the well room, standing in front of somebody who was saying, "Oh, just stand there," and I had a corridor behind us. Things were getting thrown at us, and I couldn't move. I was so terrified. I was locked in place, and I couldn't turn round to see what was behind us because I was so scared.
Well, it still makes us chuckle to this day.
Yeah.
Same question, Mr. Scott.
Was this definitely a community question, or are you just making us relive on the terrace?
Well, you decide.
Oh, there are so few that bother me at all. I'm really struggling to pick one. The morgue. Yeah. So for those of you that know Newcastle, there are bridges that cross the River Tyne, and one of those bridges is called the Swing Bridge. And attached to the Newcastle side of the Swing Bridge is the building that is now just offices, right?
Yeah, it's just offices.
But back in the day, it was an old toll house. I believe Tommy was the toll.
Yeah.
And those such like stories. But that building was used as a morgue, and there were so many bodies that were being found in the river that were bringing them out of the river and housed in this particular building. So we went along. I was a guest at the time, and I was really looking forward to this one because a few of the team had said, "Oh, we've been getting activity before we started." And I thought, "Well, this is great. If they're already getting things, this is going to be a fantastic night." 10 minutes in, group call out starts, absolutely terrifying. When people say they're seeing shadows and whatnot, sometimes I take it with a bit of a pinch of salt because I've never seen it before. Well, now I know what shadows are. It was like the Dementors from Harry Potter. Everyone's seen Harry Potter flying around that room. I can't explain how it happened, but it did happen, and it was really, really quite traumatizing. It felt like people were like blowing breath across my face. There were so many different types of activity on that night, from things like that, personal interactions, to horrible voices coming through Frank's box, to dice. I won't go into too much detail of, but I've just seen Peter take the microphone off Steve. I think that might be because Peter was that team leader that night.
Peter was.
Probably be able to fill in a few blanks that I've tried to block out.
Actually, I wasn't going to. You filled in the blanks perfectly there. All I was taking the mic away from was, if everybody was listening to that, the giggling was from Mr. Watson. So turning it back on him, what's the most terrified you've been?
I'm never terrified. I'm never scared. Nothing phases us.
Kirkley Hall.
So,
Oh,
don't know what you're talking about. Cool as ice. Nothing bothers us.
Look me in the eye and talk to me.
No, I'm not going to say that. And as it happens, we're out of time. So that's just perfect to say thank you to you guys. Thank you for watching, guys. Please hit the subscribe button. It means a lot to us. If you're listening on the usual platforms, please hit like, give us a rating. It makes a massive difference. If you're watching us on YouTube, subscribe is somewhere around here. Please click on that, share it with your friends, and look forward to episode 4. Thank you to you guys, because it is now 2:10 in the morning, and we really should be in bed. But I think I've enjoyed this and he's been scared just before you go home. That has cheered us up. If you want to get in touch with us, as usual, ghostpodcast@hotmail.com. Send us some messages. Your feedback is appreciated. If you want to know anything about the ghost hunts that we do, and ghost walks, etc., that is ghostnortheast.co.uk. Thanks a lot, guys. See you in episode 4. Don't have nightmares.